Me again, David Schwartz, CTO at Ripple. I'm super excited about this fireside chat. I'm here with Ragzy. Let you introduce yourself.
Oh, sure. Hello, everybody. I'm artist Ragzy. I'm so grateful to be here. It's been amazing meeting all the cool developers and seeing everything you guys are creating. And it's awesome to be here with you, David. We've been chatting quite a bit. It's been really cool learning about the ledger and everything you guys have been building, so.
Thank you. Yeah, there's been a tremendous amount of excitement around the opportunity to bring NFTs to the XRP ledger. And I'm excited to hear what artists like you are going to be able to bring.
Yeah, so I've been really interested in the things you were explaining to me about the ledger and the different use cases. And one of the things that attracted me to the ledger was the fact that, as an artist, I'm not necessarily the best with smart contracts or the technology side. And it seems like the ledger would be an easier solution for artists just to put their art right on top. Is that correct? Or how would you describe that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. If you produce art that's in a digital form that can be represented as a non-fungible token, XLS20 will allow people to represent those tokens on the XRP ledger, and they can integrate that into things like marketplaces. And it also supports features like allowing the original artist to get a portion of secondary transfers and those kinds of features to provide like a spectacular user experience. One of the unusual things about NFTs is, like, if you think about what's happened to the crypto space, most of the target market has been people who are really into the technology. They're really excited about decentralization. They're really excited about cryptocurrencies or about the liberating powers. But it's not really about the user experience. It hasn't been. And when a technology gets mature, what people are excited about is not so much the technology, but what the technology allows them to actually do, the concrete benefits that they can get. And we haven't really seen that sort of transition to a mass market product. Like if you're a car enthusiast, you want to know how many cylinders does it have? Is it fuel injected? But but most people who own a car, it's like, will it get me to work? I don't want it to break down. They just want it to provide them an experience that allows them to get what they need done. And I think NFTs are one of the very first opportunities to actually provide end users who may or may not care about the underlying technology an opportunity to just get a really good experience. And I just want to caveat, that's not to say that the technology is not important. If the technology is terrible, then at some point you won't be able to provide the user experience, right? Like as you get popular, you won't be able to scale. You need to have great technology under the hood, but if you want your appeal to be more than just people like, wow, cryptocurrencies are so cool, it has to be, wow, it's this thing that I can do is such an amazing experience. And art is one of the things that has the ability to give people great experiences. Like if you think about how a person can have a really great experience, like you go to see a movie and the movie is really entertaining and engaging, and it's like that art can be that driver of the experience. But you also have to have like good sound. If the sound is crappy, like that's going to take away from the experience and it's not going to be immersive. So that ability of technology to deliver those amazing experiences is something that NFT and blockchain together could do. I think it's the first time for this type of technology.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm excited for it to be live, very, very soon, and to see what opportunities it's going to bring. It's really been, a journey for me personally as an artist, just watching all the new innovation coming out of the space. I truly believe we are in the digital renaissance. For the first time in a long time, we are seeing a shift back to the artist through non-fungible tokens. You're hearing about all these new artists that are emerging out of this digital space, and I think it's something very, very special and something new. That hasn't quite been like the artists of the past. Last time we've really seen something like this was the actual Renaissance, where the artists were put on this kind of pedestal, and you hear these old masters. And I really feel like this technology is going to do a lot for all different kinds of artists, all different forms of art, from the fine arts to music to people who create characters for games. And I'm just so excited to see all the cool things that are going to come out of this space.
So just in case there's anyone here who's been living under a rock, Jessica's primary medium is Lego, which is yeah, I see a lot of people who are just super excited about that. I joke that I'm so happy to be here with a fellow block enthusiast. And she has an interactive Lego wall installation at the Manor that I encourage everybody to check out. And that's why this makes this talk so interesting, because that intersection of art and technology, it has always been one of the key ways that technology has really moved people. There are people who can get excited about megahertz and gigabytes but the ability of art to inspire and move people is something that that other things don't have, and technology to deliver art is just one of the biggest ways to get things, to have them really inspire people and have them really change the way people think about their lives. So let's get into it. You want to tell us who you are and how you got into the NFT space, and how does a person become a Lego artist?
Sure, I love the block joke. You're a block master yourself. Just
I actually got that. I stole that from one of our marketing people. He's like, "Oh, you guys are both block enthusiasts." I'm like, "I'm definitely using that."
We should do a contest. We should do a block contest sometimes. Do you think you could solve a Rubik's Cube faster than me?
It's funny. I used to be able to when I was in college. I got my time down to about 3 minutes.
Really?
And there's a wall that you hit at 3 minutes where if you want to, so not to get into a Rubik's Cube dissertation, but if you do a Rubik's Cube very linearly, like first you do this, then you do this, then you do this, then you do this, you can solve a Rubik's Cube and you hit a 3-minute wall. And to get faster than that, you have to be thinking much further ahead. And I never got to that last part.
We should do that next time. We'll do a contest. 3 minutes is that's pretty good.
I'll have to practice.
Yeah, so, well, I've always loved art from the time of being a kid. My grandfather was a builder, and his father was a mason, and his grandfather was a mason. So this idea of building and masonry has been in my family for a very, very long time. And it's funny because as a child, you would think that I played with Lego a lot or built, and I don't actually remember being so enthusiastic about it, but I always loved art. I actually found the media much later in life, so I like to use different mixed media. And just one night, I had this dream. I made this piece. It was actually called Lego Lincoln, and it was a portrait of Abraham Lincoln made of Lego blocks. I don't know where it came from, but I remember thinking it was so brilliant. I liked the alliteration of it. I liked the humor of it, that I woke myself up out of sleep and wrote it down. And I could imagine, as an engineer or coder, your mind's always going, and you're in your sleep, you're that's it, that's the solution. Has that ever happened to you where you woke up and you're like, oh my gosh, write it down or type it before you forget?
The worst thing, though, is when I can't find a pen, and then I have to convince myself it's not a good idea. I stole that joke from Mitch Hedberg. I apologize for that, but
yeah. So it was kind of the same. And then the next day, I got the materials to make it, and I hadn't been a Lego store or anything before, and I was like, what is this? Oh my goodness! And then I just started using the media from there, and I was able to create a lot of amazing things out of the bricks and blocks. And I think it just kind of clicked in that way, no pun intended, maybe the family history, something about the blocks just kind of fascinated me in this kind of block art. And even in some of the paintings I do, there's always this sort of square kind of repetitive pattern in a lot of the work, and I think that it stems from that in a way.
I'm sorry to ask you a question that I'm sure everybody asks you 1,000 times and you get sick of answering it, but why Ragzy?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I actually, when I first started art, doing art for clients, I was actually a mural artist. I like to go big. I like to do very big pieces, and sometimes unfortunately, the only jobs I would get when I first started out were holiday murals where I had to paint in the freezing cold. So I would wear 5 layers of clothes because it would be 14 degrees out, something like that. And I would have to dress in rags, and that's how I got my name, Rags the Artist, which evolved into Ragzy as I started trajecting and got discovered, and my art started building steam in the gallery and the fine arts world. So that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you've been asked that question 1,000 times. So there's kind of this separation between the underlying technology and then everything that layers on top of that. Just like in a movie theater, you've got the projector and you've got the sound system, and then you need the movie, right? And so I feel like XLS20 is that technology that's not going to get in the way of the art. You don't want to be thinking about the technology when you're interacting with the art. We designed XLS20 as like very light, very simple. You don't get bogged down in like complex smart contracts that kind of get out of the way. And it has the core functions. You need to be able to create NFTs. You need to be able to transfer them. You need to be able to sell them. You need to be able to hold them. You may need to be able to destroy them if, if there's something where they get like replaced by something else. And we provided that core functionality. And the idea is for that technology not to be the user experience. The idea is that if the product works well, the user should not have to be able to think about what's going on. What they should be able to focus on is the art. And that's where you come in.
Yeah, I think so. I think most people are like me. One artist I admire is Andy Warhol because he liked the simplicity of it. And I remember he did an interview, and if you're not aware of who Andy Warhol is, a very famous contemporary artist, and they asked him, like, why are you doing like these soup cans? Why are you doing Coca-Cola? Why aren't you creating something new? And he was like, because it's easier. And right, and I think like that's the mind of a lot of artists, and so maybe I could fiddle with the technology and figure out this creative way, but for someone like me, I don't want to. I just want to create the art and just have it be, and let somebody who's a master of that craft, you're an artist of your own craft, do that kind of work, and me to just focus on what I'm good at, which is just the artistic aspect. So that's really what kind of drew me to this specific technology, because I'm somebody who's not really interested in learning how to make a smart contract, though I admire everybody who does, and wants to learn it, and all these cool features. And I think for different tech and different blockchains are good for different artists. For the type of art that I do and for the fine arts, I feel like the things that I want to do, this might be a good solution for me, but maybe it's not a good solution for you. I think it depends on the artist. I think it depends on what the artist wants to create, what their vision is for their work, what exactly it is, and they can find like the best use case or the best tech that works for them.
I totally agree.
Right?
Yeah, yeah, and I should make it clear that if you really do want to get into the weeds with these complex smart contracts, do things that you can only do that way, then XLS20 is not the right solution. It's not going to be, not all art has to be a movie, or not all art, not everything has to be in the same medium. And this is targeted at cases where the user experience is the driver, and the blockchain is like the plumbing. What are you doing these days? What projects are you working on?
Oh, for me personally, I'm always it's so funny because I usually get a lot of last minute commissions. So I could be in the middle of something. I was working on these two flower, block Lego flower commissions. And then I got called to do something here at Apex, right? And now I got a call to do something else. I'm always working on something in the physical world. For the NFTs, I like to be in the trenches of it. I've been in NFTs for a long time. I first heard about NFTs back in 2017 through the CryptoKitties project. That's when I first learned about it. I remember my friend called me up and she was like, you have to look at this. They're trading these digital cats. And I thought she was nuts, because at the time I'd never heard of an NFT. She's like, they're trading these digital cats. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, no, go look it up. It's called CryptoKitties. This was back in 2017. And I looked at it and I was like, oh my goodness, what is this? So I had become familiar with NFTs. I don't even think people referred to them as NFTs back then, right? Yeah, maybe I'm wrong.
We didn't think of them as tokens, really.
Right.
Like you had a cat, you didn't have a token. It's only when you start thinking about it as a market sector that you start. It's like if there was only one form of art, the term art and whatever that form, if all we had were paintings, art and paintings would be this. And to some people, those are the same things, right? If you say I bought a work of art, everybody assumes it can be a painting. So it's it wasn't until people started to think of it as a market sector and products in that market that they said, well, we need to call them something. And I think that's when people started saying that they behave like tokens because you can hold and transfer them.
I see. Yeah, because I don't remember them being referred to in that way. It was this digital art trading, and I was interested in it. It was something I watched for a long time, and I got excited when I saw, the CryptoPunks and other things starting to explode in late 2020, and then really take off in 2021. So I've been just really entrenched in the space and kind of getting to learn the other creators, the other, developers, the masters of their craft, the people developing the technology behind these projects. And I just find it, just so amazing, everything that's that's coming out of this industry, but it's coming so fast and it's a lot to take in. So as far as art goes, I already know what I'm doing, but I still have a lot to learn, I feel, in the blockchain space. But do you even feel that way? Because there's such a long way to go. Do you feel like there's still such a long way to go in blockchain that even someone like you feels like everybody in this space still has so much to learn from this new tech and like where it can go and what can be innovated from?
Yeah, I think we're at very, very early days, and I think we're starting to see the first opportunities to break out to markets where the target market isn't people who think the technology is exciting. It's people who think what they personally can do with the technology is exciting. You know, like if you think of any technology in the very early days, the people who adopted it were super excited about the technology, and they were saying, "Oh, this technology is so cool. I wonder what I can do with it." Right? And the opposite is what happens when you have mass market. When you have mass market appeal, it's like, oh, I have this problem and you have something that solves it, right? So it's like we're kind of on opposite sides. Like you are looking for solutions to problems that you have, and we're looking for problems that our solutions will, we've got these solutions, right? We're like, here's the things that we can do with the blockchain. Who needs to do those things and what do they need to do them for? And as I was saying before, like the first people who are attracted to it, people like, this technology is amazing. Someday we'll find something useful for it to do, right? And that's why I'm so excited about XLS20 NFTs, because I think it is one of the first cases where you can make a good argument that the technology can actually deliver something that people really need, as opposed to people looking for things they can do with the technology. You know, if you're going to have mass adoption, you're going to have this, like if you look at the adoption of the internet, you look at adoption of automobiles, you look at adoption of television sets, like at first you have this slow growth period where enthusiasts who are excited about the technology and its potential adopting it, and then you get this knee in the curve where ordinary people who don't care about the technology, like this does something useful for me. And I think NFTs are one of the first cases where you can really make that clear. Like lots of people are excited about, store of value and means of exchange. But if you go to people and say, hey, do you need a store of value? They look at you like, you have 3 eyes or something, right? Like that doesn't match a problem that they have. And you have to sort of convince them that they have. It's like if I tell you, look, your credit card is terrible. You're like, but I love it. I'm like, no, it's terrible. Let me explain to you why it's terrible. And after a while, I could probably get you to say, oh yeah, I see, credit cards are pretty terrible. But like if I have to convince you that you have a problem, I've kind of lost the game. On the flip side, if I can show you an amazing experience and I can say there's a technology called blockchain that's making that experience work, you may or may not care, right? You're excited by the experience, by the product, by that user experience, and I think that's that kind of turning point. And NFTs are like really the first technology where I think that's very clear, and that's kind of like why we're both here. I'm on the solution side, being like, who has a problem? I have this great technology, but I don't have a problem that it solves, right? Like I'm looking for a problem that fits my solution, and especially in the digital art field, people had these solutions like, I can create this great digital art, but I don't understand how to sell it. You saw like there's an infrastructure for art that includes things like places that display art, galleries and auctions and so on. And so what people would do is they would create digital art and then they would load it into a frame so there was a physical object that could be sold at the auction. But the work of art is not that physical frame. It's the digital work of art. There just wasn't any way to deliver it. And so what was happening is they were trying to make the existing technologies that were not designed for digital art somehow work for digital art. And this is sort of the opposite. Like we have a pure digital technology. Let's see if we can use that to deliver digital art to people.
Yeah, and I just love this space so much. And one of the things that I love about this space is, for the longest time, you were a rich artist when you were dead. And I feel like this tech is changing that. I love this idea of artists being able to collect royalties when work is resold. I think that's really important. And I think just also the branding of the artist too, because as things are trading, they kind of learn the artist's name. Whereas you see a painting in the gallery, you might just buy it because you like it, and you might not look at the signature of who made it. Or if you're hanging that in your house, your art collection, somebody walking in might not necessarily like know who the artist is, or it might not be brandable in that sort of way sometimes. But so I love all the cool things this space is doing for artists, and I'm definitely excited to see what the ledger can do for artists like me, and see all the cool innovation that's going to come out of this space. I've had the pleasure of meeting a lot of cool people this week and hearing about all the cool things they're planning on developing on the ledger. So, yeah.
I assume you've talked to other blockchains about the technology that they have. Any thoughts on comparisons or how you think the XRP ledger positions relative to those?
Well, one thing I like about the ledger is I like the speed of it. I like that it's, I don't know if this is the correct term I should use, more green, right? More sustainable. I do see that as an issue with other blockchains. But I think at the core of it is ease of transaction, because as somebody who's been in NFTs a while, you know, I'll be buying an NFT, right, or want a piece of work. It won't show up right away. Did it go through? Did I lose it? Is the crypto gone? So transaction time was an issue. Not seeing the asset. I think like there's this feeling where if you're doing an exchange where you're buying something, especially if it's art because it's visual, you want to see it right away. You bought it, you want to see it right away. So I think like that's definitely a benefit that the ledger is going to have over others, where you might have to wait a while to actually like see the asset in your wallet. I think that's really important to like a consumer, somebody buying art. Like they buy the piece, they want to see it, especially if it's expensive. I can tell you, like in the fine arts world too, you know, if somebody's spending a couple $1 million on a sculpture, they want to see it. They want to see it like it's going on the truck. They want to see it's in process, that they're going to actually get that asset or get that painting. And you know, it's a very transparent process where, you know, on some blockchains, you might buy something, it might not show up for a little while, and I don't feel like that's the best user experience, if that's the correct term. So I'm excited for this because I feel like it'll be easier. I want to provide a good experience for my clients and the people who want to collect my work, that admire my work. I want them to buy a piece from me and then have it like immediately, and it to be this happy experience, not have like a, you know, some kind of panic attack or afraid like they're not gonna end up having it. So I think there are some issues, you know, with blockchain, but I think there's like pros and cons to everybody's. But I think there's room, right? Like all the different tech has different use cases, has different components to it. So I think there's room for all these different chains. I think people just need to pick what's best for them and what's going to work for them and their network and their community and what they're trying to build.
You know, you mentioned being able to get a residual on secondary sales as like an advantage of NFTs over like the traditional art space. And in traditional art space, there's a lot of gatekeeping. Like, you know, I can't create a work of art and sell it, you know, without going through intermediaries, so I have to convince, and there's nothing more subjective probably than like the quality of art, right? And I'm wondering, like, we saw how YouTube kind of like allowed people with videos or people with music to sort of get out without having to go through the like, if I, you know, back before things like YouTube, if I produced a video that I thought I wanted people to see, like I would have to go to cable television or try to, like there was a lot of gatekeeping, and YouTube kind of eliminated that gatekeeping. If I make cool videos, like people can see them immediately. And I think NFTs have an opportunity to sort of remove some of that gatekeeping. And I'm wondering if that's going to be as significant in the art world as it was in things like music and videos, and even with writing, right? Like it used to be like if you wanted to write something and get it out, the only thing you could do is try to get it published in a newspaper. And like today, anyone can write a blog or put a post on Facebook. I'm wondering if you think like that sort of reduction in gatekeeping is going to be transformative in the art space.
You know, it's interesting because you're 100% correct on that in the fine arts. And I do actually see a little bit of that, truthfully, already in the non-fungible space. You know, there are maybe like superior platforms and superior groups and things like that. And I do already start to see there is a little bit of that good old-fashioned artistic gatekeeping already trying to take place, already trying to take over the market, right? Because they like to control the
like verified projects and
That's
right? Which is not just, you know, are you who you say you are, but it's also like, is your art good?
Yes, yes. So I do already see that, but I also think you're right in the sense that it's good that anyone can put their art out there, because if your art is good, or it's not if your art is good, art is subjective, right? A bunch of you in here could think my art's absolutely terrible and you would never buy it, right? And somebody in here might think it's amazing and pay $1 million for it. It's all subjective, but your community who wants to buy, you know, your artwork as an artist might uplift the creator. That's where they're getting it wrong too. This is a really, I'm like really believe in this. The web, they're getting it wrong. A lot of these brands, a lot of these companies, they're so entitled to Web 2. Like, we are this brand and we are worth this amount of money. That's not how Web 3 really works, right? And we know this. And in Web 2, the brand holds the value, but in Web 3, the community uplifts the brand. It's the other way around. And they were getting that wrong. I saw a lot of these brands or these famous artists launching NFTs, and they're completely flopped, and people are like, oh, but why this person is so famous or this brand is so famous? Because that's not how it works in Web 3. The community uplifts the creator, and that's why I think everybody has an equal shot in this space. Even though there is a little bit of gatekeeping, oh, we're gonna verify this and that, but the way Web 3 is working, the community can really uplift any creator and make it into a top creator very quick. And I think that's something really special and very powerful and will help eliminate the gatekeeping that we've seen in the past later down the road.
Are there challenges that you've faced as you've tried to transition from building physical works of art to digital art?
Yes, it was hard at first, just raising awareness, because the Web3 space is very different. I think, and you saw a lot of like famous musicians and things like that launch their NFTs. I think you can't rely on your fame or your following from Web 2 necessarily yet. Maybe in the future, maybe when people are able to pay with credit cards all over the place and things like that. But I don't think you can necessarily rely on that audience right now, and I think that's why a lot flopped. I think it was a learning curve for me, building a community, getting entrenched in the community. Luckily for me, I'm into a lot of tech and science stuff, so a lot of my audience was very much into crypto. So I was lucky in a sense, like I already liked NFTs and I already liked crypto, and I like Lego and tech and all these like kind of nerdy things, right? And I had like that kind of following already, which helped me, but it was definitely a learning curve. Like I learned that people aren't just gonna buy something because you had a brand in Web 2. You have to reinvent yourself in Web 3. And that's something I'm learning, but is very, very special. So at first, like I said, it was a little bit of a learning curve. I was like, what is this? Like, how am I gonna sell this? Like, what is a smart contract? What is blockchain? Oh my goodness, what's going on? But I'm slowly learning and getting better at it. And I think the most valuable thing, whether you're an artist or a developer, you can really learn from other people's mistakes, because people who kind of just charged in there made a lot of mistakes really early on, and you can kind of see what they did and learn from their mistakes too to make your project or your art or whatever you're building better in the future.
I think you're absolutely right that Lego as a medium has like an appeal to engineers and people who are also interested in blockchain that other mediums might not. Like if you were doing fine art paintings, I'm sure there's people who love them, but there isn't that sort of intersection with engineering, because like when you're building something out of Legos, like you are engineering, right? Like you have structural issues and support issues, not just aesthetic issues. And I think it's similar with like the creative process with coding. Like obviously it's much more functionally driven, but there also is a sort of aesthetic to it that leads to resiliency and those other the other features that we want in code that makes it not just do something, but also to some extent like beautiful.
Yeah, I think it's the same in a way. We were talking about this actually yesterday, where we think the same as an artist, when I'm in the middle of a project, like especially if it's made of Lego, I can't just stop in the middle because I'm afraid I'm gonna forget my place and I'm not gonna be able to finish it. So I will work all through the night. And I would imagine as a coder and engineer, it's the same way. It's like they can't just stop in the middle of a code, right? You'll like not go to the bathroom, anything, just to finish this code. And he was like, you said that was right, correct?
It's funny how similar our creative processes are.
Yeah, so it's like a similar creative process, even though it's an artist and engineer. Artists and engineers have always been able to view the world differently. And I think that's something really special that people have missed. People in art, tech, and science have always questioned everything. How can we make it better? And they always view the world differently. They're always out-of-the-box thinkers. So it's funny how different we are, but how similar artists and like engineers or people in tech actually think very much alike.
We're just about out of time, so let's start the speed round.
Oh, a speed round. Ooh, I like that.
Yeah,
oh,
so
okay.
You get to go first.
Okay. All right, I have a new one.
Okay.
If you could meet anybody dead or alive, who would it be?
Donald Trump dead. Just kidding, just kidding. Joke, that's a joke, sorry. It's a joke. I won't give another answer because I can't top that. That's a joke.
What's your favorite Lego set?
I built a TIE Fighter set when I was younger. It was a gift from my parents, and my father built it with me, and that experience was just, you know, it could have been any set, but the experience is just burned into. How did you get into Legos? Why Legos?
I had when I was, I had a dream. Like I had a dream. I made this painting of Lego Lincoln, and just.
That got you. Really?
Yeah.
That's such a cool artist, like a superhero origin story.
Yeah. What's your favorite TV show?
Oh boy, you know, I just recently, I'll give a really recent one. I watched the Sandman on Netflix, and I just thought some of the episodes, the ending's a little disappointing because it's just so great up, but some of the episodes were just works of art all by themselves. It just blew me away.
Very cool.
We are out of time. Unfortunately, I could continue this for hours, but I just want to say thank you everyone for coming, and Ragzy, thank you so much for being here. This was so much fun.
Thank you so much. It was so fun.
Thank you, everyone.